Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Amna Gul from the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. We're back with the course Development Support Communication, bearing the code GMC 413. It's our 9th lecture, and the topic today is Pakistan's Sustainable Development Goals. We'll be starting off with an understanding of sustainable development. Here I would like to share something with you. Then we'll discuss sustainable development goals, and then we'll move forward to Pakistan's sustainable development goals. So starting off with sustainable development. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. We have had a discussion of these things earlier as well. For example, if there is a current need of transportation, so sustainable development would be that setup of transportation that does not compromise, that does not affect the future. For example, if roads are to be made, if roads are to be constructed, plantation should be looked into. Obviously, you see, for example, if CPEC is being made, or for example, any other roads or highways that are constructed, for that matter, a lot of trees are cut down. So if that happens, then it is compromising the future for the present. That is not sustainable development. However, if the same trees are planted somewhere else, then obviously the future is also secure. That is sustainable development. Same is the case, for example, think about usage of water or all these things. Rather, I would like to share a video with you that explains sustainable development in a lot more detail, since we were supposed to do our awareness campaigns as well. So for that matter, it is very much useful that we watch this video together. So here we go.
Sustainable development. Everybody's talking about it. But what do those two words really mean? Let's take a couple of minutes to see what sustainable development is all about. The idea first emerged in the late 1980s as a response to the world's growing social and environmental problems. With globalization, the inequality gap between rich and poor countries is widening every day, and the projections for population growth are alarming. How are we going to feed a total of 9 billion people in 2050? How can we offer everyone access to clean drinking water, healthcare, education? How can we protect biodiversity and take concrete action against climate change? How can we make sure that industrial development means progress for everyone? The proposed solution was a new kind of development, or rather a variation of the traditional model called, quite simply, sustainable development. The term was officially defined in 1987 as part of the preparations for the Rio Earth Summit. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Does that sound a little abstract to you? Let's put it this way. Sustainable development means that growth must be accomplished with respect for nature and humankind. And where is sustainability achieved? Right here, at the crossroads of economic goals, social responsibility, and environmental protection. Now, are you wondering whether a company can combine respect for the environment, social equity, and commercial success? Well, the answer is yes. Not only that, but sustainable development creates value. Here's how. Upgrading production tools to use less energy and water is good for the environment and for the pocketbook. Offering eco-designed products and packaging that use just what's necessary saves materials and reduces shipping costs. Paying attention to employees, improving their quality of life at work, and helping them develop their skills all serve to strengthen their engagement. And stronger employee engagement means better overall performance. Creating products that are accessible to the world's poorest populations means opening new markets, the ones whose populations are going to grow the fastest between now and 2050. Monitoring the working conditions offered by suppliers and subcontractors means minimizing risks that could damage the company's image. As you can see, sustainable development affects just about everything. More and more companies today understand that they have important economic, social, and environmental responsibilities and are committed to making a difference. The ones that seize this opportunity to create value will find that their success is, in a word, sustainable.
Wasn't that an excellent definition, an excellent explanation of what sustainable development is? People in third world countries, in our setups, they tend to take it as a burden. But actually, it's not a burden. It is actually for the benefit of the present as well as for the benefit of the future. So, if you're clear about your inputs, you need to work for that. Our goal at this time is to understand what sustainable development goals are, and then we are going to relate those with Pakistan. So the sustainable development goals, these are also known as SDGs, are known as global goals. These were adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015 as a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. So it was a 15 years plan, and currently still we have got around, we might say that 19 years for that. No, it's 2021. No, I'm sorry. It was a 15 years plan, so we have still got 9 years for that. Now the 17 SDGs, or the Sustainable Development Goals, are integrated. That is, they recognize that action in one area will affect outcomes in another, and that development must balance social, economic, and environmental sustainability, as you just saw in the video as well, that these three elements need to be cared for: social sustainability, economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability. Through the pledge to leave no one behind, countries have committed to fast track progress for those furthest behind first. That is why the SDGs are designed to bring the world to several life-changing zeros. For example, including zero poverty, zero hunger, and same is the case with discrimination against women and girls. So that is the thing. Everyone is needed to reach these ambitious targets. The creativity, know-how, technology, and financial resources from all of society is necessary to achieve the SDGs in every context. In this case, students are also very much important, and especially you, when you are studying sustainable development goals, it is your responsibility to understand these and look into how you can play a positive role to bring about these, to achieve these goals. We'll start with the goals. I'll discuss each one in a brief detail with a reference to specifically Pakistan. So the first one is no poverty. It is the same sequence of goals. It is the same number for all the countries, but obviously every country has then explained it differently for themselves, because every country is on a different level. For example, in Pakistan, things are different. In, for example, other countries, things are quite different. So the first sustainable development goal aims to end poverty in all its forms. End poverty in all its forms by 2030. Since the government has signed up to Sustainable Development Goal number 1, they can be asked to adopt the equivalent of US dollars 1.25 per person a day as an official poverty line. since they had to set a standard for everyone, so that was the standard. The sustainable development goals can also be used to push for a quick consensus on ways of measuring poverty in all its dimensions according to national definitions. Once again, in order to, for example, end poverty in all its forms, there is necessity for having a consensus on what poverty is, and that has been done in this case. Now, the second one, zero hunger. By 2030, Pakistan is supposed to end hunger and ensure access for all, especially for the poor and vulnerable, to nutritious and sufficient food the year round. So by 2030, it is required that Pakistan has to ensure that everybody gets nutritious and sufficient food throughout the year. There are certain places where people do get food, but it is not nutritious because they do not know about nutrition. There are people who get food, for example, they get a lot of food, or they do get food in summers, but they have trouble getting proper food in winters, for example. So that has to be cared for. By signing the SDGs, the government has committed to ending all forms of malnutrition, because malnutrition ultimately causes a lot more problems as well. However, independent of these commitments, if the country wants to achieve high growth rates and sustain the latter to ensure development, hunger and food insecurity need to end. Even if these commitments were not made, still, for any country to achieve high growth rates, or to sustain growth rates, they need to ensure development. They need to ensure that hunger and food insecurity has to end, because it creates a lot more problems then, not only health issues but also social issues, and automatically economic issues are already there. The tragedy is that it is not the case that Pakistan is not producing enough food. We all know Pakistan is an agrarian country. We do produce a lot of food. Pakistan can easily afford to provide adequate nutrition to all its citizens. Actually, it is a question about asymmetric income and wealth distribution, which in turn results in unjust access to food. So it's not just the access to food, but also the way food is used. We all know how so much food wastage is like there is so much of food wastage trend in especially weddings or all these events. So food is not channelized, things are not channelized appropriately, and obviously there is unequal distribution of income and wealth, for that matter. That is also one of the points involved here. With goal 3, that is promoting good health and well-being, calling for an integrated approach is crucial for progress across multiple goals. It includes alleviating poverty and hunger. Obviously, these are interrelated. If you want to end poverty, so that is also related to health. If you are trying to end hunger, that is also related to well-being or health. The focus includes a commitment to end epidemics of, for example, tuberculosis, malaria, and other communicable diseases by 2030. It also aims to achieve universal health coverage and provide access to safe and effective medicines and vaccines for all. Once again, in Pakistan, we do not have the concept of health coverage because there is no, like, health insurance is not very common for everyone, but in much of the Western world, health coverage is something very common, and that is why universal health coverage is asked for. And in Pakistan, we are looking into the different setups are coming in. For example, for those who are elderly, they are being provided health coverage now, so that is part of these things as well. And since it is about sustainable development, so actually all the countries, it is not about Pakistan only. For example, Why is there so much focus on ending polio? Because all these countries are interrelated. So if a virus, if any disease, any communicable disease is left unattended somewhere in the around the globe, there are chances that it can spread throughout the globe. So once again, this is very much important. Goal 4 prioritizes equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. It's not about genders, it's not about age, it's not about social classes. No. Equitable quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. This goal has 7 targets and 3 means for implementation, covering all levels of education from early childhood, primary to secondary, uh, technical, vocational for decent jobs, and university through formal, non-formal, and technology-enabled channels, conducive learning environments, adequacy of trained teachers, and opportunities for scholarships to pursue continuous learning. The Gender Gap Index 2015 ranked Pakistan second from the bottom, that is like second last, among 145 countries. Goal 5 aims to address gender equality and women empowerment. Poverty, poor health, and illiteracy make almost 50% of the country's population who are not full participants in the realm of socio-economic development. The low status of women, in fact, deprives the state of realizing the full productive potential of half the population. Goal 6 of the Development Agenda talks about ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation. 8 specific targets have been formulated to achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene for all, to end open defecation with special attention given to the needs of women and girls. For affordable clean energy, Pakistan requires more transmission lines, cost-effective production, better regulated renewable energy markets. Germanwatch's latest Global Climate Risk Index, which measures how nations are affected by weather-related disasters, ranks Pakistan as the world's 8th most impacted nation. Like Pakistan is the 8th most impacted nation, impacted by weather-related disasters. Experts have estimated that about a quarter of the country's land area and half of its population is vulnerable to climate change related disasters. We have seen so many floods coming in. So with its dry climate or extreme weather events and natural resource shortages, the country's climate vulnerabilities can't be overstated. Goal 8 empowers governments to break free from the shackles of aid and propels nation states towards making greater strides in trade, growth, jobs, and safeguarding the dignity of individuals, communities, and nations. And for the first time, there is an unequivocal opportunity for the private sector and business to join hands with governments and the international community and test their mettle in the cause for sustainable development. Goal 9 aims to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. This goal recognizes, firstly, that sustainable human development improvements cannot come without economic growth, particularly in manufacturing. Every job in manufacturing creates 2.2 jobs in other sectors and is therefore critical in generating employment. Secondly, it places the signatory countries' sights on the goal that is beyond physical manufacturing and assembly to the higher value addition process of innovation, research, and design. Goal 10, focusing on reducing inequalities by 2030, underscores the need for policies to achieve and sustain income growth of the bottom 40% of the population at a rate higher than the national average, among other targets, all focused on inclusive economic growth. For the country as a whole, 48% of rural households are landless, with the highest incidence of landlessness at 62% in Sindh. Goal 11, sustainable, green and resilient cities. It forms the defining constructs of an emerging urban planning paradigm that is fast gaining global traction. Here, strategic plans are replacing master plans. Gated communities and urban sprawl, supported by private automobile-friendly transportation infrastructure, are being discouraged to promote mixed, integrated neighborhoods with walking and bicycling supportive streets. With more than half of the world's population presently residing in urban centers, these designs serve as the front lines in the battle against climate change. Goal 12 calls for ensuring sustainable consumption and production, reaffirming global consensus on the centrality of sustainable practices in the quest for sustainable development. The targets linked to Goal 12 include sharp cuts in food losses and waste, environmentally sound management of chemicals, sustainable public sector procurement, enhancing knowledge and awareness about the benefits of sustainable practices and lifestyles, rationalization of fossil fuel subsidies, and strengthening the scientific and technological capacity of developing countries. Things can trickle down to something as small as consuming event wear. For example, the bridal wear in Pakistan, it is something very expensive, or the party wear clothing, and these are especially the bridal wear, it's seldom used. So there should be a responsible consumption. Even in Pakistan, the trend is coming in that these are lent. People can rent bridal dresses and then just pay the price, and one dress can be used by a couple of people. Or there is another trend also coming in that is not very new, that is not very common as yet. That people are replacing their expensive bridal dresses by either going for simpler ones or reusing those of the elderly women in their family, of their mothers and stuff. So things so small are also very, very important. Goal 13 specifically calls for urgent actions to combat climate change and its impacts. About 45% of the 169 targets related to this goal highlight the need to tackle climate change and avert impacts, particularly on food, water, energy, and economic development. The challenges of climate change and its adverse impact undermine the ability to achieve Vision 2025, that is Pakistan's development blueprint. Adverse climate impacts are reflected through increased floods, prolonged droughts, changing temperatures, and extreme weather events, heat waves, glacial melting, changing monsoons, and cropping cycles. Goal 14, aimed at the integration of oceans into the SDGs framework, calls for commitment to ensuring the sustainability of oceans and marine life, with special attention to the welfare of populations dependent on ocean life. Pakistan has witnessed various happenings in its ocean fisheries environment, with numerous incidences of large mammals, that is sharks and whales, washing up dead on its coastlines. with seas and oceans being overpolluted due to human activity and serving as repositories of human waste, chemical pollution, and dumping grounds for industrial non-usable outputs, our ocean has turned into a junkyard. This toll on marine life directly impacts the welfare and livelihoods of communities dependent on these resources. Goal 15 focuses on protecting, restoring, and promoting the sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, sustainably managed forests, combating desertification, and halting and reversing land degradation and biodiversity loss. Pakistan is poised for a turnaround of the system. Rapid action is needed to sustain populations with the erosion of land resources. A reversal is possible provided a science-based approach is followed along with institutional reform and resource mobilization. Goal 16 aims to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. This goal has 12 targets that include reduction in violence and related death rates, an end to abuse, trafficking, exploitation, violence and torture of children, rule of law and equal access to justice, substantial reduction in corruption and bribery, effective, accountable, and transparent institutions, responsive, inclusive, participatory, and representative decision making, provision of legal identity for all, including birth registration, public access to information and protection of fundamental freedoms, and strengthening of institutions to prevent violence and combat terrorism and crime. Finally, Goal 17. Goal 17 that aims to revitalize global partnerships for development by building domestic means to implement the SDGs. Global partnerships must have varied elements: more development assistance, debt relief, trade agreements that help developing countries find markets and better conditions for foreign and domestic investment. Partnerships matter when lifting people out of poverty, when protecting the environment, and when building peace. Partnerships between governments, the private sector, civil society, and the international community. Here I would like to share a video with you. This is actually an Urdu explanation of all the 17 SDGs that we just discussed.
इनकलाबी तब्दीलियाँ, पायदार तरक्की के आलमी मकासद या SDGs एक दूसरे से जुड़े 17 आलमी मकासद का एक मजमूआ है। मकसद नंबर 1, हर जगह हर तरह की गुर्बत का खात्मा। हमने सबके लिए हर तरह की इंतहाई गुर्बत को ख़त्म करने का तहैया कर रखा है। मकसद नंबर 2, खुराक के शोबे में सेहत यकीनी बनाना, ग़िज़ाइयत बेहतर बनाने और पायदार ज़राअत के फ़रोग़ के लिए गुर्बत का खात्मा। महफूज ग़िज़ाइयत से भरपूर और खातिर ख्वाह खुराक तक रसाई यकीनी बनाना, खुराक की पायदार पैदावार यकीनी बनाना और मुश्किल हालात के मुकाबले की सलाहियत रखने वाले ज़राई तरीक़ों पर अमल दरामद करना। मकसद नंबर 3, सेहतमंद ज़िंदगी यकीनी बनाना और हर उम्र के तमाम अफराद की फ़लाह को फ़रोग़ देना। सेहत और फलाह को फ़रोग़ देना, ज़च्चा और बच्चा की शरह अम्मात को कम करना और दिमागी सेहत को फ़रोग़ देना है और सड़क पर होने वाली हादसाती अमवात और ज़ख्मी अफराद की तादाद में निस्फ तक कमी लाना है। मकसद नंबर 4, सबकी शमूलियत पर मबनी मुसावियाना मायारी तालीम को यकीनी बनाना और सबके लिए ज़िंदगी भर सीखने के मौके को फ़रोग़ देना। यकीनी बनाना कि तमाम नौजवान लड़के और लड़कियां, बच्चों, माजूर और हर सिंफ के अफराद के तकाज़ों से हम आहंग इदारों में तरबियत याफ्ता असातिज़ा से फ़नी, तकनीकी और पेशा वराना आला तालीम समेत मायारी तालीम तक रसाई और उसका हसूल शामिल है। मकसद नंबर 5, सिनफी बराबरी का क़याम और तमाम ख्वातीन और लड़कियों की बाइख्तियार हैसियत, ख्वातीन और लड़कियों के खिलाफ हर किस्म के इम्तियाज़ का खात्मा, ख्वातीन के लिए क़यादत और फैसला साजी में मौक़ा की दस्तयाबी यकीनी बनाना। मकसद नंबर 6, सबके लिए फ़राहमी और निकासी आब और पायदार इंतज़ामिया यकीनी बनाना। फ़राहमी और निकासी आब और हिफ़्ज़ान सेहत की मौज़ून और मुसावियाना सहूलियात तक हर जगह सबकी रसाई यकीनी बनाना। मकसद नंबर 7, सबके लिए बाकफ़ायत, काबिल इंहिसार, पायदार और जदीद तवानाई तक रसाई यकीनी बनाना। हर जगह तवानाई की बाकफ़ायत, काबिल इंहिसार और जदीद सहूलियात तक सबकी रसाई यकीनी बनाना। तहकीक और टेक्नोलॉजी में बैनुल-अक़वामी इश्तराके अमल बढ़ाना। नंबर 8, पायदार और सबकी शमूलियत पर मबनी मुआशी तरक्की, हर सतह पर सबके लिए भरपूर और समर आवर रोजगार की फराहमी, बाइज्जत और मुहज़्ज़ब काम को फ़रोग़ देना। फ़ीकस आमदनी को पायदार बनाना, मुआशी पैदावारी सलाहियत का हसूल, जदीद टेक्नोलॉजी को बेहतर बनाना, तरक्की पर मबनी पॉलिसियों का फ़रोग़ और जबरी मुशक्क़त के खात्मा के लिए इक़दामात करना। मकसद नंबर 9, मुश्किल हालात के मुकाबले की सलाहियत रखने वाले बुनियादी ढांचे की तामीर, सबकी शमूलियत पर मबनी और पायदार सनती अमल का फ़रोग़, तहकीक में बेहतरी, जिद्दत का फ़रोग़ और इत्तलात और अबलाग तक रसाई में इजाफा। मकसद नंबर 10, ममालिक में और ममालिक के माबैन अदम मसावात में कमी। मकसद नंबर 11, शहरों और इंसानी आबादियों को सबकी शमूलियत पर मबनी, महफूज, मुश्किल हालात के मुकाबले की सलाहियत की हामिल और पायदार बनाना, जिनमें बुनियादी सहूलियात, तवानाई, रहाइश और ज़राए आमदोरफ्त तक ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा रसाई मुहैया करना। मकसद नंबर 12, तसर्रुफ और पैदावार के पायदार तरीके यकीनी बनाना, वसाइल और तवानाई के उम्दा इस्तेमाल और पायदार बुनियादी ढांचे का फ़रोग़, फालतू मवाद की रोकथाम, फुजला के अखराज में कमी और दोबारा इस्तेमाल के जरिए रोकथाम करके वसाइल को ज़ाया होने से बचाना। मकसद नंबर 13, तब्दीली आबो हवा और उसके असरात से निपटने के लिए फौरी इक़दामात करना, मुअस्सर मनसूबाबंदी और कौमी पॉलिसियों के जरिए तब्दीली आबो हवा के बारे में शऊर व आगाही का फ़रोग़। मकसद नंबर 14, पायदार तरक्की के लिए समंदरों और आबी वसाइल का तहफ़्फ़ुज़ और पायदार इस्तेमाल, आबी आलूदगी की रोकथाम के जरिए साहिली माहौलियाती निज़ाम का तहफ़्फ़ुज़, तेज़ाबी अमल में कमी, साइंसी और तहकीकी ताउन में बेहतरी और पॉलिसी इस्लाहात के जरिए माही गिरी को बाकायदा कानून के दायरे में लाना। मकसद नंबर 15, ज़मीनी माहौलियाती निज़ाम का तहफ़्फ़ुज़, बहाली और पायदार इस्तेमाल का फ़रोग़, जंगलात का पायदार तरीके से उम्दा इस्तेमाल, बढ़ते हुए सहराओं से निपटना और ज़मीन के बिगाड़ के अमल को रोकना और उसको उल्टाना, हयातियाती माहौल, हयाती निज़ाम में तनव्वु को पहुँचने वाले नुकसान को रोकना। मकसद नंबर 16, पायदार तरक्की के लिए पुरअमन और सबकी शमूलियत पर मबनी मुआशरों का फ़रोग़, सबके लिए इंसाफ तक रसाई की फराहमी और हर सतह पर मुअस्सर, काबिल एहतसाब और सबकी शमूलियत पर मबनी इदारों की तामीर, कानून की हुक्मरानी का फ़रोग़, हर तरह के जुराइम, करप्शन और रिश्वत में कमी, सबके लिए कानूनी शिनाख्त यकीनी बनाना, गैर इम्तियाजी कवानीन का फ़रोग़। मकसद नंबर 17, पायदार तरक्की के लिए आलमी पार्टनरशिप पर अमल दरामद और उसे जला बख्शने के तरीकों का इस्तेहकाम, जो मुश्तरका अवलीन तसव्वुर और मकासद के असूलों और अक़दार पर मबनी हैं। इन सब पायदार मकासद के हसूल के लिए हमें मिलकर मनसूबाबंदी करना होगी।
This was an excellent explanation. It explains it all. So I'll just wind up. In short, the SDGs constitute a 15-year framework that will guide country plans, priorities, and investments to reduce poverty and promote development. They'll influence the definition of development, how it is funded, and how it is measured. These SDGs were preceded by the Millennium Development Goals, which were also known as MDGs, which were active from 2000 to 2015. Unlike the top-down development of the MDGs, the SDGs have been the subject of extensive consultation and a much more inclusive process, face-to-face consultations in more than 100 countries and it applies to all countries. These goals have the power to create a better world by 2030 by ending poverty, fighting inequality, and addressing the urgency of climate change. Guided by the goals, it is now up to all of us, yes, as governments, businesses, civil society, and the general public. It is up to all of us to work together to build a better future for everyone. That's all for today. If you want the reference material, the image source sdgpakistan.pk, it is having all the data that I've just discussed with you. That's all for today. Thank you.